Yeah, I appreciate somebody just speaking the truth, because this is a second-year quarterback in his first full year starting, and we don't treat it that way. We could always say, it's a seventh rounder, his expectations should be low. I don't even subscribe to that. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL. The expectations should be there. There's a team that he's on. This is a great team. But we're talking about a second-year guy going into the playoffs, winning ball games, winning close ball games, coming back, crucial drives, crucial situations, pressure-packed moment, and he's showing up. And all we can do is talk about his shortcomings. He's not big enough. He doesn't have the great arm. His athleticism isn't there. He's not this. He's not that. And not appreciating that a second-year quarterback just took his team to the Super Bowl. Usually you'd be impressed by that. But in this situation, he would have to be Trey Lance. Or if not Trey Lance, he would have to just have Trey Lance's draft position. And then this story would be unbelievable. You talk about two elite quarterbacks and two first-round quarterbacks going to battle in the Super Bowl. If this was Trey Lance, we'd be talking a whole different way about what he's been able to do, regardless of the weapons he has, because of the expectations coming in and the perceived talent and the perceived potential. But with this guy, it's almost like you spend so much time waiting for him to fail that you can't appreciate what he's doing, because it's just so much disappointment. If all you're doing is waiting for him to fail, then every week you're disappointed pretty much, except for that 3-week stretch where he had some struggles and they lost some ball games. Then everybody who was waiting for him to fail was in heaven, because you're like, this is what we've been waiting for. Turn back into a pumpkin. Yeah, we were right. And then when he goes into the playoffs and wins, you're like, gosh, hurry, lose so we can be right. Like, lose, come on, lose so we can be right. And all Jared's saying is stop waiting for him to lose and just appreciate what the kid is doing. This is a second-year quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, a quarterback that was drafted last pick, has never completed a pass in the National Football League. Not only has he completed a pass, but he's taken his team to the NFC Championship, then to a Super Bowl in his second year. So let's give the kid some credit.
Yeah, I don't know why Game Manager has such a negative connotation toward it, Skip. Why?
Right.
I don't understand that. Because a lot like what Richard is saying, I could break it down 50,000 different ways. We could talk about draft position and draft status. We could talk about quarterbacks that were drafted not in the first round that went on to win Super Bowls. His teammate in Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson went on to win a Super Bowl. But we talk about that defense, but we never say that Russell Wilson was a game manager. Mm-hmm. We never treat it that way. And I'm on record as saying at the beginning of this season, I need to see 17 games, right? Meaning the 9 that he played in last year and whatever he gives me this year, if he gave me 5 and another 3 or 2 or whatever, just give me 17. A full season to be able to tell you if he was for real or not. Well, I got a full season, including last season, but I got a full season. And when he wasn't in the lineup in the NFC Championship game, they didn't go to the Super Bowl. But when he's in the lineup to complete the NFC Championship game, he goes to the Super Bowl. Game managers don't throw for 4,200 yards, man. They don't complete 31 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, discount that, slice that in half, that's 5.5 interceptions. You know how I like to do that. That's probably his fault, receiver's fault, wrong routes, da-da-da. So when you're looking at the numbers standpoint, he's up there with the top dogs that win in the first round, the second round. Josh Allen ain't been nowhere near what his kid's been. This kid's been to 2 NFC Championship games and 2 seasons in the National Football League. If you took his jersey off and you put anybody else's jersey and number on it, people would go crazy. But I also understand how the world works. Because he is this little underdog sort of kind of guy, and they've had the Steve Youngs and the Joe Montanas of the world for the San Francisco 49ers, he's never going to get the full credit. As I said before, it's just how people think and work. They start to point to all of the different pieces around him to be able to say, this is the reason why. Well, we've seen other quarterbacks in San Francisco's system with all those same kind of pieces except Christian McCaffrey. But Ayuk has been there, and Kittle's been there, and Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams. All those guys have been there. And those quarterbacks haven't been able to advance them offensively the same way that he has. Even Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't advance them the same way offensively as him. And that's just, it's mind-boggling. It's unfortunate. It's a disservice to him as a player. You know, all I needed to do was 17 games, though, Richard. Just give me 17, and I'm like, oh, dude ain't a pumpkin. Because that's the first thing you think of, Skip. You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing. You go to Kurt Warner's career, and you think about Kurt Warner. It was all about the greatest show on turf. Oh, it was throwing the ball. It was Isaac Bruce. It was Hakeem. It was Torrey Holt. It was Marshall Faulk. But then he leaves that and goes to the Cardinals, and they go to the Super Bowl. So it's like, come on, man. At some point, you just got to give it up for him, and all I can do is say he's here to stay. He's here to stay.
Okay, I don't know where game manager came from. Who started that? Was it a Cam thing? I know Cam said something about game manager.
You mean this season?
Yes, or whenever season. I don't know, wherever. He is the flip side of a game manager. He's a gambler. He'll take chances that no young quarterback should take, and many times he'll pull them off. He tried that scramble left the other night, throw back across his body over a defender to Juwan Jennings, and he pulled it off. But it's ill-advised and not something you would teach your coach. But he pulled it off. But that's not a game manager. I don't know where that – I don't know if Cam started it or draft positioning team, meaning like he got drafted, where he got drafted to Mr. Irrelevant, and the team was already intact. And it seems like many people just want him to be a plug-and-play guy. Okay, and then we had the Amy Trask quote of a couple of weeks back where, how'd it go? Something about their 7 quarterbacks left in Brock Purdy, like he's just some guy or something, you know. And I know Amy very well, and she does know football, and she was Al Davis's right hand. And she probably just doesn't like the 49ers because she was a Raider body and soul. So now we get back to Brock Purdy. Look, what he's done, I've said this 100 times already on the show, it's phenomenal. It's extraordinary. It's off the charts. It's unheard of. Nobody saw it coming because he was the last pick in the draft. Even the 49ers didn't really see this coming because they had invested 3 firsts and a third in going up to get Trey Lance in the draft. And they did it because they didn't trust Jimmy G, even though, as Richard well knows, maybe all too well, with Jimmy G at quarterback, they had a 20-10 lead over the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl with 7 minutes to go. Well, Jimmy did that. He got you there, but he couldn't get you across the finish line. And so they said, we're going with Trey Lance. I just don't think Trey Lance ever was healthy, never could stay or get healthy.
That may be true.
And whatever, they fell right into, I should say, Brock Purdy fell out of the skies into their laps, a la Tom Brady with Belichick. And
that may be true.
Took off. Okay.
That may be true.
And I can't argue with the postseason performances, the stats. They're all extraordinary. Okay, so what would give me pause at all this year? Well, we did have, as you guys point out, we had the 3-game stretch where he struggled. But then he bounced back and he had some very good games. And then we had Christmas night. It was their toughest game of the year at home against the Baltimore Ravens. And he threw 4 interceptions. And a couple of them you can say were not his fault, but he did throw 4 interceptions, as we're seeing right now, against the Ravens. They're difficult to quarterback against. They scheme you up as well as anybody. They disguise as well as anybody. They get after you as well as anybody. They led the league in sacks. So he had a long, rough night, as we're seeing right now.
Number 1 defense in the league,
man. It was
the
number 1 defense in the league. Didn't play like it in the first half last Sunday, but that's a whole nother story. All right. And then in the first playoff game against Green Bay, you can do wet ball or whatever you want to do, but for about 3 quarters and a half of that game, he was pretty horrendous. And I'm not going to put you through it. We've shown the whole tape of all of his 16 incompletions, but they were, you want to talk about off target. But then to Richard's point, when it was time at the end of that game, he drives them down. What was it? It was a great drive, 69 yards and 12 plays. He went 6 out of 7. When it was time to hold on and grip the football and throw it accurately, he did, and they pulled it out 24-21.
The rain stopped, Skip.
Yeah. You know, the rain stopped. I don't think it did stop. I think it was still raining. But he obviously got away with throwing one to Darnell Savage that hit him right in the breadbasket, and Dak threw one like that, got pick-sixed, and Savage dropped it. So has Brock been charmed? Yeah, maybe he's been charmed. And then we saw the other night He throws the deep ball to Ayuk, and it's a little overthrown, and it hits the DB, if we could see it right, in the face mask. And it's the all-time lucky carom, maybe since the Immaculate Reception and Franco Harris, and pops right up to Ayuk. And all of a sudden, it's 1st and goal at the 4-yard line. And at that point, you're trailing 24-10. So if the DB catches the ball or even bats it away.
But the thing about it is, he's giving Ayuk an opportunity.
Yeah.
Ayuk didn't blow past the DB because the DB was so far off, but he gave him an opportunity. It's not gunslinging. It's, I'm going to give my guy an opportunity because I believe my receiver is better than that DB.
No.
You see it all the time in the league.
Okay, and then to close on Richard's point, he closed that game. When it was time, he did it with his legs. He had 2 21-yard scrambles. Well, I give it up.
And then against Cleveland on that 3-game stretch, he led them back. They just missed the field goal.
They missed the field goal.
That's all.
Yep.
So, look, man, he's here to stay. He's here to stay.
I think he's here to stay. I just want to kill the notion of this because it's frustrating because it's hard for lower rounded drafted guys to get the credit because it's like if it's not how people expect it to look, then they're not going to give guys credit. And this just goes period, point blank in the league in general. A lot of the guys who get the opportunities are going to obviously be first round guys. You know, obviously Baker Mayfield has gotten multiple chances and he's done well with them. But he's a #1 pick. He's going to get multiple chances. Sam Darnold probably got more chances than he probably should have, but it's because he's a #1 pick. He's going to get multiple chances.
Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.